I do tend to like to get angry at times, but I was walking around my house last night actually thinking to myself, I sure get angry a lot. People believe I am. People believe I'm just a horrific racist. I cannot stand the disproportionate amount of crime and violence in the black community amongst young black men. The disproportionate amount of violence, sheer, brutal fucking violence. And I'm not even talking just against, white folk. Black on black is amazing.
The disproportionate number of crimes committed in black communities.
That's not true.
It is true.
Why do you commit crimes too? That's not true.
Not at a disproportionate number.
No,
than black people. It absolutely.
The prisons are full of
absolutely
white folks
true.
and black people and everything else. Why do you commit
12% of the national population.
How much
50%
money?
of the prison
How
population.
much money does
one guy with a bullet in his head for $20?
But why did
get smarter with your crime?
What are you talking about?
What the fuck?
It's not true.
It is true.
It's not true.
Why am I so concerned about the outcome of the Trayvon Zimmerman case? To me, it has the same feel as a sporting event to me. Like, I want my team to win.
Are you betting on it?
No.
And technically, we've gone over this. Neither of them are your team.
I understand.
Yeah.
No.
Honesty. You know what's wrong? I'm honesty.
So when you look in the mirror, do you scream?
No. I am honesty. I am the face of honesty.
Afraid of black people, so you look in the mirror and you scream.
I'm talking about white society wouldn't perpetrate many crimes.
You're the spokesman for white society?
Yes, thank you, I am.
Yeah,
we wouldn't perpetrate. There aren't many white on black crimes. As many as there are black on white crimes based on the population.
That's not true.
Population. Absolutely true.
No, it's
FBI
not
statistics, my friend.
FBI?
You don't FBI.
You believe them?
Motherfucking FBI.
You believe the FBI?
I don't know. It's one of those situations. Although I do get very angry. I was thinking last night, I get very angry at those things. Well, maybe I should just not get angry.
Yeah, but you like getting angry.
I don't even think you get really angry. I think you're just having it's more of a fun anger.
Oh, no, I'm angry.
No, it's angry.
It's toxic. It's not fun.
I'm angry.
It's fun when he's walking around the house in his underpants with a gun to him. It's fun when he's by the pool and he has to keep his gun dry by the jacuzzi.
Fair point.
Jesus Christ.
Fucking ant.
You never know when they're going to come in.
But it's a drug. It's hard to. It's a very addictive, fucking thing and feeling, and it's just it's a good feeling and it's horrible at the same time. It's sometimes fucking shitty things are comfortable. It's that anger's a drug, Ant.
Is it?
Yes. And the beauty of you is that you're such a nice guy, but you don't express sadness very well.
Right.
And it's not because you don't get sad.
I should be sad about that.
Certain things. Well, you don't express hurt feelings well. Because as a man, we don't express hurt feelings very well. We tend to... Anger is safe and controlling. It's a smokescreen. There's always something behind anger. A lot of times it's hurt feelings or sadness. Sure. Like if a girl ever cheats on you. Like, fucking cunt. But the reality is it really hurts. It's sad. You know, but anger's a little bit safer. So a lot of times things will come out in anger that probably should have come out earlier as hurt feelings or humiliation.
That makes sense.
Why would... This is good advice.
Why would you know
what?
Holy shit. This is a pre-fucking
That's
show.
right. Knowing by personal experience,
Yeah.
you should have no feelings about this because you've never gotten beaten up by a black guy. You're only... Meaning...
No, I was.
Were you?
Well, I used to get shaken down in Central Islip.
But I mean, you don't deal with it now. Like, your personal experience with black people hasn't been one of oppression or terrible, and yet you still have very strong feelings about what goes on involving other people.
I see it as a guy that had a gun that was threatened, whatever, or the other guy sees it as a guy that was walking around and he was threatened and he ends up dead. But with all the facts that have come out so far, or speculation, whatever, I have a vested interest in this case.
Because you have strong beliefs, you're very passionate about those beliefs.
Yes.
And you want everyone else to see exactly how it should be seen.
Or why do we, and this is what sports teams do.
Fine, I agree with you.
You invest yourself, and all of a sudden, this is where conspiracy theorists go wrong. Because we put our identity into this fucking cause. So the positive or negative outcome of the cause is a validation of my identity. It's really weird how we wrap ourselves up in these fucking things. Like, I see that as a reflection of myself, and it shouldn't be. Who cares? Like, if 9/11 was a conspiracy, why would I care? Or if it wasn't a conspiracy, why would Alex Jones give a shit? He should go, okay, that's what it was, and now I know what it was.
Right.
Do you think that you guys are tying your emotions up to these, like, issues that have nothing to do with you?
Everyone does, yeah.
But do you think it's because that way you can get mad at what's going on television or on the internet instead of actually dealing with what is actually your emotion? You know what I mean? Like, instead of actually dealing with something that's hurting you, or instead of actually coming to terms with your emotions, you just attach them to Trayvon. That way there's a clear cut. Have you ever thought about that? Like, why do you actually care what color a burglar is on a Sloman Shields commercial? What difference does it make?
I know, you're right.
Who cares?
Why do I care about that? I'm so angry. I purposefully go to websites to read things that I'll be like, I know it.
The anger is very, very blocking, and it's toxic, and I suffer from it, so I'm not shitting on you. I get it. But it really is a drug. It's so hard to not be angry. Like, my girlfriends I would fight with, and my one girlfriend would go, let's just figure out a solution. And I'd be like, I fucking I don't want a solution. Like, I didn't want to let go of that drug.
No?
No.
Someone's slow in front of me, I will pass them, but then I look over to see who's driving, and then I go, that figures. Of course it is.
You just like being proven right.
Yeah, you get this you get a very angry point of view in your head, and then you'll seek out
I'll confirm
evidence,
validation.
Yeah,
and I confirm it,
and then you can come on with some statistics, even though you're the guy who's always said how misleading all statistics always are.
Not those.
My mistake.
I know statistics that are misleading, and others that are not.
Because the ones that are misleading don't support your point of view.
FBI crime stats are not misleading. People believe I'm just a horrific racist.
I don't think you are.
Thank you, Lou.
Yeah.
I'm not that
I think you're a
horrific.
delightful racist.
I'm very good. Now, here's
the thing with Louis Gates Jr. The thing that white people have to keep in mind, because we have different timelines in our heads. Like, white people often say, I've heard so many white people say, slavery was 400 years ago. It was 130 years ago. It was really recent. People say that. Hey, we started 400 years ago. Slavery began.
We kind of mopped up.
Yeah, we got a couple centuries in.
And also hit the lights until about
130 years ago is when it really stopped. And also, it didn't stop, and then things have been just awesome for black people since that. Like, that's the last bad thing to happen to any black person was slavery 400 years ago. That's what we think. And since then, we've just been showering them with gifts since then. It ended officially 130 years ago, really continued for another 80. And then,
give or take.
The thing to remember is that if a black guy or a black woman has little gray hair at the temples, they lived in an America where they were legally barred from using certain fucking bathrooms. where the country didn't let them use the fucking bathroom. Keep your big, black, smelly cock out of this room, you fucking black bastard. Like, that was the official American law.
Right.
Was you can't pee anywhere you want, fucking coon. Yeah. That's what it was like. And so you take that. So anybody that age remembers that and has had to live and go, okay, thank you for now letting me do what I should have always been able to do. Or you were raised by somebody. If anybody younger, a black person in their 30s or younger was raised by somebody who lived in an America like that.
Right.
So how do you fucking Louis Gates Jr., he's the president of fucking Harvard, and he sees a cop looking at him twice. He's like, what do I got to do? What the fuck do I got to do? So if you're the president of Barack Obama, you got Louis Gates Jr. calling you on the phone and telling you and just screaming at you, and you're like, oh boy.
No, I gotta say something.
Guys Barack's age are raised, again, they're their parents. Did you ever live in like a black neighborhood?
Yes, I lived in Central Islip. I lived on Hawthorne Avenue, if you know where that is.
But were you in like a white enclave, or were you in a black neighborhood?
Nope. I was in a black neighborhood with a few white kids that were petrified for their lives on a daily basis going to school. There was this kid, Keith Green, his name was, and he'd come up to me and go, give me 50 cent. Give me 50 cent every day. And I'd have to give him 50 cent. or it was like, wham, you're getting whacked.
You have to give him 50
cent. And I was
And
like,
it had to be Fitty. It literally
like,
wasn't 50.
Why?
It was Fitty.
Yeah, and Danny put the picture of Fitty up.
I think there's a Fitty. There's got to be a 50 cent piece at some
50
point.
cent, give me 50 cent. And he'd look down at me like, give me 50 cent. Like, and I'd be petrified. I
Sure.
was so scared.
That's all he wanted was 50 cents.
Just 50
You're
cent.
like, I got $1. He's like, no, 50.
70s though, dude. So
Yeah.
50 cent was
With inflation, that's, you know,
was
it's probably
huge.
10
50
bucks.
cent was a
that
lot.
was everything. That was lunch. That was, hanging out, candy after school.
I
You know,
remember
everything.
50 cent.
All that
50
for
cent was huge.
All that for 50 cent.
Back in the day. I don't like the excuse of
Coke and a Snickers,
that whole
50 cent back
thing.
then.
Like the whole, all right, you're brought up in a black neighborhood, it's impoverished, it's this, it's that.
Well, I don't think it's that simple. I think,
Why-
I lived in Roxbury for a while in Massachusetts.
Yes, in a pleasant area.
Very nice. And it's because I lived on the Parker Street projects, cops would not come
They
there.
wouldn't come there. Why
They
would
wouldn't
they?
come
Yeah.
there. When I grew up in Newton, Massachusetts, there's fucking cops circling our house like the president is having
Yes.
dinner there.
Wonderful.
Constant police surveillance
Isn't that great?
of rich neighborhoods. No, and Parker Street, my neighbors were lovely people who lived behind bars. It's like Ross Perot said in one of the debates. These people they put themselves in prison in order to protect themselves because cops won't go to these places and the city won't fucking clean the streets.
Why?
Because
would
they don't
cop
give a
go
shit
to
about
that
those
area?
people. Yeah, because
no, it's not so much that they don't give a shit about those people. They fuck themselves by going in those neighborhoods. Cops put their lives and their careers.
It's not the specific police. It's what resources are allocated to what places. And rich neighborhoods get more resources allocated to them than poor neighborhoods, and because that's where the tax bases
the tax is also paying for that protection. Yes,
it's really poor on poor violence, and black people have a poor look to them because a lot of them are poor and they have been historically. So it is a cycle. I think, though. I think it's a cycle.
So there's nobody that can.
If you neglect a neighborhood, everybody will. People rob and kill their neighbors. That's what people do.
Yeah.
They don't go to other areas.
Oh no, I realize very rarely. So I've been like in that situation, but I understand. I'm not black. I have lived the whole legacy of that.
But I don't think it's just. I just don't think it's that simple.
But I have no idea of that lifestyle where life is so fucking worthless. And violence is so prevalent where the want for violence. Like if I got in a fight with somebody and I punched them and they fell down, I would not then stomp their head until they're dead or in a coma in the hospital or some shit like that. But that seems to be what's going on.
All of our minds are running malware. Like, we're all running bad code. We're all running confirmation bias.
Except no one thinks that they are.
Right. Everyone thinks the other ones are, but not me. But the point is that all of us, like, it doesn't matter, like, people on all sides of the political aisles and all tribes, we've all been shown our version of the boogeyman, our version of the inflated thing that got our attention and then made us focus on that and then make us double down and go into those habits of those topics being the most important.
I've been consuming radical content on YouTube for about 6 months. After the Orlando shooting, I remember I typed that theme into YouTube and was inundated with YouTube videos from Rebel Media and One American News Network type channels, and ended up going down that rabbit hole. I ended up becoming a correspondent for Rebel Media, of which I obtained millions of views. And my boss always told me, and the bosses of these other organizations always told me, that we should never let the truth get in the way of a good story. And if we can get people angry, and if we can get people upset, we can make more money, we can make more profit, and we can drive the algorithms to keep pushing these videos. It's what made me feel very disenfranchised and end up speaking out about it all in the end.
We can each be convinced to share our political views, and we'll do it knowingly for free. Actually, we don't really know that we're the useful idiots. That's the kind of the point. And then instead of paying an editor $100,000 a year to figure out which of those things is true that we want to promote and give exponential reach to, you have an algorithm that says, hey, what do people click on the most? What do people like the most?
In the trade, the terminology we use is engagement. We have algorithms that drive engagement. And we hire zillions of people with recent PhDs from psych departments. There's a program called Persuasive Technology at Stanford where you can go get a PhD in this, and then you get hired by some tech company to drive engagement. But it's really just a sanitized word for addiction.
And then you realize the quality of the signals that are going into the information environment that we're all sharing is a totally different process.
But as someone who really believed in it and believed that, free speech was under attack and that the West was being invaded and all these ideas that they were pushing, I really felt that if I had to take part in disinformation and take part in bending the truth, that it was for the greater good.
And then we fight back for territory, for values, when we raise our hands and say, hey, there's a thinspiration video problem for teenagers and anorexia. Hey, there's a mass conspiracy sort of echo chamber problem over here. Hey, there's, flat earth sort of issues. And so we have to realize that. I almost think we need a shared moment for that. I wish the social dilemma was a little bit more of it was a shared moment, but I think there's almost like a truth and reconciliation, moment that we need to unwind our minds from the cult factory. Because it's a cult factory that found each of the little tribes and then just sucked them together and made them in a self-reinforcing echo chamber.
Let's say we take any issue that some people care about and think is central, whether we take social justice or climate change or U.S.-China relations. Half the population has a solution they want to implement, carbon taxes or whatever. Other half of the population is polarized to think that is bad and terrible and going to mess everything up. So that other half are still political actors, and they're going to escalate how they counter that. How do you get enough cooperation to get anything done, especially where there are real issues, and not just have all the energy become waste heat?
There's other things to get angry at, though. What's something that's legitimate to get angry about, then?
Would stop looking for things to get angry about. That's the point.
Technically nothing.
Who cares about any of this nonsense? What are you angry for?
Doesn't it affect me?
I'm with Sam. I rarely get angry, and I know he does, too.
Fully angry if someone's going slow in front of me or tailgating me. My rage is equal at them not doing what I want them to do. Either fuck you, I'm going the right speed, or speed up, you piece of garbage.
Does that anger, stay with you?
Yes. It's consuming. Consuming.
Yeah, I get angry if it's legitimate, but then I'll tell whoever I'm angry at why I'm angry.
Looking weak is very bad. You don't want to look weak either. And if you feel like somebody gets over on you, you look weak and soft and like you've given in. And how much of that can you take after being told, shut up and stop playing with puppets, you faggot? You can't be that fucking guy again.
But a lot of times you look weaker for arguing.
Yeah.
If you just, if somebody's, shitting on you and you ignore them, you look stronger for ignoring them. You're
and also
this guy's too big to be doing that.
It doesn't have to be a one-on-one, who's weak and who's not situation. There's just things that I just don't get angry about because they don't concern me.
That most people are very unhappy with what they do for a living. They're very unhappy with their lives, their personal lives. There's a good percentage of people that are not happy with most aspects of their existence. Well, they seek distractions. They seek distractions. That might be the only comfort that they have is arguing about global warming with people online or arguing about Second Amendment rights. We got to take into consideration the motivation for people to engage in these acts in the first place. And a lot of it is just they're very, very unhappy with their existence. So that's why they get trapped doing this.
And this is what sports teams do.
Fine, I agree with you.
You invest yourself, and all of a sudden, this is where conspiracy theorists go wrong. Because we put our identity into this fucking cause. So the positive or negative outcome of the cause is a validation of my identity. It's really weird how we wrap ourselves up in these fucking things. I see that as a reflection of myself, and it shouldn't be. Who cares?
Well, can I just make a distinction, though?
Please.
As far as where this conversation came from.
Yeah.
Louis Gates Jr. being arrested and getting cranky about it.
Oh, right.
and that coming from his personal history being a painful one in America, understandably. Yeah. And rising above it, by the way, and he didn't respond to it by being a black on black violentor.
No,
he responded to it by elevating himself and running the greatest
Black Studies
the greatest
program, by the way. Which, by the way, is revisionist history a lot of times, and it's
he's the president of Harvard.
Ingrained, mistrust of white people, if not a genuine dislike of white people.
Well, sure, again,
that 50 Cent really,
that really did. Yeah, see, and by the way, this is interesting because then here's this other one is. You're definitely colored, so to speak, by the fellow who asked you for 50 Cent. That was a fear that was put into you that you'll never forget. And I I respect and understand that.
Yeah.
That's going to mean that you're going to see all these stories differently. When you see Barack Obama saying they acted stupidly, it just is a beeline in a synopsis firing path in your brain that goes right to that guy asking you for 50 cent anytime, and that's deeply ingrained in you,
but
and that's
if 50
understandable.
Cent was the last time I ever saw
when Louis
anything
Gates
bad.
Jr. sees a cop with his hand on the gun, on the butt of the gun, saying, "Sir, I need you to step away from your own fucking house." He just remembers. He remembers whites only fucking signs and all that stuff, and it drives him crazy. And so that's just everybody brings their own thing to it. I personally think that America's working remarkably well considering all that. It's considering all the wreckage of the history. It actually works pretty well.
There is no
the fact that look, people in fucking Iowa voted for Barack Obama. That means we're whether or not he ends up being a great president. I think we're coming out on top of this shit. But it's complicated. It's a messy family.
I disagree.
My father came and stayed with me for a week. Well, 2 days. It felt like a week. It was 2 days. And my dad, I have such a fucked up history with my dad. But I got through it. I got through these 2 days. I was like, hey, you know what? We made it.
We can do this.
Like, he's 72 now. I don't know how long he's got left. I'm not sure, how he's making it. He's had a tough life.
Yeah.
And so I got through the 2 days, but there were moments during those 2 days where he just said little things that I almost fucking hit him in the face. I almost had to call 911 and go, hi, listen, I just killed my dad and I need someone to come over here.
Take care of my kids for me, please.
I
like his take on that whole.
No,
but I like it.
And I'm not saying that there's here's the thing. I say it's understandable that certain older black people have an edge on them because of history. And then you take it to that it's an excuse for violence and murder.
Well,
but it's not. But I'm not thinking of that, and I do. But and again, it's just really fascinating that that's your perspective because of what's going on with you in your life.
It's not just my perspective on that. That's kind of simplistic because I gave you one example of something that happened, and then
it's the only one that matters.
But it isn't
the only one. It's your first moment with a black man.
If that was the only knowledge I'd had of that, it would have been a forgotten memory. But it's reinforced constantly by just this unbelievably outlandish unbalance in violent crime. And
although
perpetrating
informed, all of it has been informed by the first experience you had. And I'm not saying this is a flaw. This is how everybody is.
So I'm watching a black man pummeling an old white woman for her money on a video surveillance camera, and it's because of 50 Cent that I look at that. I should look at him like a gentleman.
No, of
then
course,
what the fuck
of
am
course
I,
not.
What
but
does 50 Cent have to do with the way I interpret that?
You started a collection that began with 50 Cent.
But I'm not collecting. I'm being given this. Purposefully go to websites to read things that I'll be like, I know it. I'm being given this.
Rage, Anthony, is a big, loud, flaming self-distraction from feelings that are even more frightening.
What feelings might those be?
So many regrets that I remember in my head, little moments that probably could have been happy moments that I just didn't do the right thing or something. It was a tummy ache, and he would turn around and go, "You don't have a stomach ache," and you wish you could just project yourself as an adult into that kid to go, "Yeah, you're right, I don't. I said I have a stomach ache because you two are ruining me. You're just yelling. It doesn't end. It doesn't stop. Could you just leave each other so we can grow up in an environment not filled with hate? There, my stomach's fine. Put the Pepto away, Mom. The stomach's fine. You two are jackasses, and you're destroying your children."